because you don't need money to make money. It's one of the biggest lies. And when people say that money doesn't make you happy, well, working at a job you hate doesn't make you happy, and paying a lot of tax doesn't make me happy.
U ovom videu nadaleko poznati Robert Kiyosaki, ovoga puta sa svojim računovođom Tomom Wheelwrightom, objasnit će konkretno kako su se Kiyosaki, kao i mnogi poznati političari i preduzetnici, obogatili koristeći legalne metode za neplaćanje poreza i pokazat će kako je moguće napraviti novac praktično ni iz čega.
Ovaj video sponzorisan je od strane Kripto Unity-a, startup projekta naših ljudi sa Balkana. Kripto Unity platforma, za razliku od mnogih ostalih menjačnica, pruža interfejs jednostavan za korišćenje sa tehnologijom hladnog novčanika, takozvanog cold walleta za bezbedno skladištenje kriptovaluta. Njihova kriptovaluta KAT, token menjačnice, je trenutno u pretprodaji i još uvek se može kupiti po sniženoj ceni, koja se svake nedelje do kraja pretprodaje povećava. Svi naši pratioci koji odluče da kupe preko linka koji se nalazi u opisu videa dobijaju bonus od 5% KAT tokena.
This is how it started. So when I was 9 years old, my rich dad very simply said to me, he says, because I was flunking out of school. My poor dad was the head of education for the state of Hawaii. And my rich dad was my best friend's father, who never finished school. And the reason he never finished school was because his father died when he was 13. And at 13, rich dad had to take over the family business. So this was the difference. Rich dad went to school in real school. He didn't have fake teachers. See, a fake teacher is somebody who doesn't do what they teach. So rich dad was taught by his accountants, his bookkeepers, his attorneys, his banker, his brokers. So I'm sitting in this class, and I asked the instructor, I said, tell me, are you, and just repeat the question. I'm a Marine lieutenant. I just don't like BS, And I said, are you an accountant? He says, yes, I have a master's in accounting. I said, that's not the question. Are you an accountant? He says, I have a master in accountants. I said, have you ever been an accountant? He says, no. I resigned from the MBA program. He had no idea what he was talking about. And that's one of the problems of young people today. They're going to school with teachers who don't know what they're talking about. I remember I went to military school, the academy in New York, and I asked my calculus teacher, I said, when will I ever use this calculus? He says, I don't know. I said, why do you teach it? He says, I get paid. And today, my brain is still messed up, taking 3 years of calculus. I had no idea what I was studying, okay? So anyway, Tom has really helped me with these things like this, but Rich Dad Poor Dad is about income, expense, assets, and liabilities. That's all it's about. And one more thing, the most important word for those of you who are in real business is a statement of cash flow. That's all it is. So very simply, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the statement of cash flow says, assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money from your pocket. That's all the book's about. And so the reason people are in trouble financially is they buy houses they think are assets, but it's really taking money from your pocket, whereas I buy a piece of rental property and put money in my pocket. That's the difference. So that's all Rich Dad, Poor Dad was about. Any comments on this, Tom?
No, that's why I love Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? So how many world famous books are there about accounting? I think one. So, no, what most people don't recognize either is that liability is okay if it's producing an asset because it's all about the cash flow.
Yeah. See, this is the word asset is a noun. A house is a noun, but you don't know if it's an asset or liability until you apply the verb, which is cash flow. So I can have a rental property and it's producing income one day, but it goes vacant and now it shifts into a liability the next day. And that's what happened to many people in 2008. They got hammered because the tenants moved out or lost their jobs or whatever it is. So basically all Rich Dad was produced 1997, 21 years ago. And it's very simply about what they should teach kids about money. That's all it's about. So this here is a second book, and it was called the Cash Flow Quadrant. And this is the Cash Flow Quadrant. So again, I'm 9 or 10 years old. My rich dad's teaching me assets versus liabilities, and then he starts teaching me about the 4 people in the world of business. And how many people read the Cash Flow Quadrant? Good, thank you. For those who haven't, very simply, E stands for employee. My poor dad always said, go to school to get a job. That's why they're employees. My mom wanted me to be a specialist, like a doctor or attorney or a lawyer or a pizza shop owner. And I said to my mom, I was a C student. I'll never become a doctor. She says, you're right. You're not going to make it. But anyway. But this is where Tom comes in, is because, as Tom will tell you, employees pay 40%. All these guys who are becoming entrepreneurs today, they leave their jobs, or the colleges are teaching kids to be entrepreneurs. They move into a higher tax bracket without financial education. And business owner, which is 500 employees or more, these guys pay about 20%. And this is worldwide, right, Tom?
Worldwide.
And these guys pay 0%. So when I was 9 or 10 years old, my rich dad said, which one would you like to be? It's easy, here. So this is Shark Tank. These guys are passive investors. They buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, save money. These are inside investors. They're the inside the deal. Very different. So Tom's going to talk quickly right now about the Trump tax cut and how it affected this year.
Yeah, so fundamentally, when you look at these different rates, it's just a matter of what the government is rewarding, right? Because the tax law is just a series of incentives. It's an incentives for things like creating employment. So these guys create a lot of employment, they get a lot of tax incentives to do that. Or creating housing or hotels or whatever type of investing, agriculture. So these guys get a lot of tax
incentives. Or oil and gas or food and things like that, which is right here. So these guys here have really good tax advantages, right?
Right, because this is what the government wants you to do. They'd like you to put your money here. If you put your money here or here, they're going, that's fine, we're happy to take your money. The reason these guys are so high is because they're paying not only the employee share of the taxes, but they're also paying the employer's share of the taxes. So that's why you end up in such a big tax bracket down self-employed. And this, again, worldwide, not just the U.S.
Yeah, the numbers may vary a little bit, but generally that's the way, because the government's got to have these guys as partners, right?
Well, yeah, because these guys are doing what the government needs somebody in the private market to do, that the government doesn't want to do themselves. Well, I can say, being Robert's personal accountant, he's told me I can say this, is that what he's done is pretty amazing, because if you think about it, so the more income you make over here, the more taxes you pay, right? But the more assets you buy over here, the fewer taxes you pay. So the more real estate, Robert makes all sorts of money, selling books and in his business and so forth. What he has to do is push that money into assets, else he's going to pay a ton of taxes. It's really that simple.
Yeah, so that's what I go into right now. It's called the infinite return. So in 1973, when I came back from Vietnam, my poor dad wanted me to go here and get my master's, get my PhD like he did, and my rich dad said, come here. So I went here, as you can tell, because I didn't like school personally. I just hated academics and school teachers, because I don't like fake teachers. And Tom and I have taught all over the world, haven't we?
We have.
And the worst teachers are?
Accounting professors. It's true.
That they don't understand cash flow, right?
That's the challenge. They don't.
Because they go operate on the definition of the word versus the technical or the useful benefit of the word. That's the big difference. Because you don't need money to make money. It's one of the biggest lies. And when people say that money doesn't make you happy, well, working a job you hate doesn't make you happy. And paying a lot of tax doesn't make me happy. And, being on this side makes me very happy. And I'm glad there's people who like being on this side, but I didn't like it here.
Remember, the tax benefits come from more assets. And the more you use other people's money, right, you get the tax benefits. The banks Banks don't get tax benefits for lending you money. You get tax benefits for borrowing the money. This is the formula, right? This is the formula. It's the formula in real estate. It's the formula in oil and gas. Frankly, it's the formula in business. So if you don't have to pay tax because you reinvest the money in the business or you reinvest the money in real estate, then you can use the taxes you would have paid to the government and reinvest those, and you can even borrow money. So it's almost an addiction, right? The more assets you buy, the less tax you pay.
The poor and middle class, this is what happens. They go to school, they get a job, they pay taxes, goes to the government. It's all cash flow. They put an IRA, goes to Wall Street, and they buy a house, goes to the bank. That's why the poor and middle class are going broke. Because they went to school, they're told, get a job, work hard, save money, get a 401k. Any comments on this cash flow pattern, John?
Well, I mean, what I see is, I look at that, and it's all cash flow going out.
Yeah.
There's no cash flow going in.
They don't know how to turn the cash flow back in because they went to school. That was my poor dad, PhD. Poor, helpless, desperate. That's what it stands for. And they run our school systems. They're teaching your kids and your grandkids. And we wonder why we're in trouble. It starts in school. No financial education in school. That's why I started the Rich Dad Company. This is really simple stuff. You don't have to go to Harvard to understand the little squiggly lines. This was all Rich Dad, Poor Dad was. This is all this is cash flow quadrant. Still our best sellers. This is why they get richer. Taxes. Debt. I reinvest 1031 tax-preferred exchanges. And I buy gold and silver. I do not save money. I save gold and silver. I have millions in gold and silver because I don't need money. I don't need cash. I have cash, but it's short-term cash. I'm waiting for the next crash. I can go back in. I save gold and silver. Any comments on that, Tom?
Well, on all of this, every time you buy an asset, your taxes keep going down. So even if you have income from other sources, a business or a job or something else, with the right tax planning, all of those asset purchases over here, all of these assets that you're buying over there create more tax deductions, which means that you send less money to the government.
Yeah, I use debt to buy assets. And the more debt I use, the less taxes I pay.
That's right.
And the more assets I buy, the less taxes I pay. And instead of selling, I don't like to sell because that's a capital gains, right?
Right, but if you just borrow the money out, if you just borrow against it, then that's not taxable.
This is not hard, guys. With a good accountant, good attorney, and smart advisors, you can get there. I was a C student. I really don't know much. Tom will verify that, right, Tom?
It's true.
But I do have a smart wife, right?
Very, very smart wife.
The key to success is marry a smart woman. Okay, I got that?
That's his key.
Yeah, as my wife wasn't rich either. She just understood real estate. But she says, when it comes to money, women are much smarter than men. And I'd have to agree. So anyway, that's why she wrote the book, Rich Woman. Okay. But this here is McDonald's formula. This was my formula as a kid. If I get $1 million, what does that mean, Tom?
Well, so what that means is I have to go borrow $4 million to buy a $5 million asset so you don't pay tax on the $1 million.
You know, and wherever Tom and I go all over the world. And some moron, you know, will raise their hand and says, no, what they say is, you can tell them, you can't do this here. And what I say is, you have a McDonald's? Yeah. Well, what do you think McDonald's is doing here? If you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you know, Ray Kroc's, when my friend from the University of Texas asked Ray, he says, Ray asked the class, the MBA class, he says, what business is McDonald's in? Answer was, real estate. Today, McDonald's owns more real estate than the Catholic Church. Okay? Because if you saw the movie Founder, it's in there. So all these yo-yos and all the countries we go to, these academic types say, you can't do this here. And all I say is, do you have a McDonald's here? Yeah. The trouble is they can't see it because they went to school. So this is tax-free income here, depreciation, and that's that Jared Kushner thing. Oh, he's cheating using depreciation. What is that, Tom?
So depreciation is really just basically supposedly the wear and tear on a building. The difference is that, if you buy a chair or you put in carpet, it really does wear out, whereas buildings tend to last a lot longer than the depreciation.
Is this depreciating right now?
You can watch it.
Why is appreciation tax-free?
Well, so appreciation, remember, we don't pay tax until we actually recognize that gain. So we can appreciate all we want in gold and silver and real estate, oil and gas. If we don't sell it, we don't actually pay the tax. So we can keep it appreciating, we can borrow against it and not pay the tax.
Amortization.
So amortization is great because you've got debt that you use to buy this over here, but that debt is being paid for by your tenants, customers, etc.
And this is what the New York Times says is some kind of criminal offense.